Hello everybody, this is me Sajid and welcome to this video. You delivered a lot of results, but you did not get the appreciation that you anticipated, or you did not get the recognition that you were looking forward to. If that has been the case, then I would say you are not alone. And this is a very common scenario that happens across many organizations. But have you ever wondered that what was the reason for you not being recognized? Why you were not recognized as much as you had anticipated? In some cases, it could be deliberate due to personal reasons or whatever. And in some cases, it is not deliberate. What I know by working with so many companies so far, that it is generally not deliberate. An organization does not intend to demotivate the people they work with or the employees that are working for that organization. And if you feel that way, then probably that means that there is something wrong. So there are several parameters that influence your recognition and appreciation across the enterprise or throughout your career. And it can be applied to all the organizations we work for. One of the parameters is called visibility. Visibility is an important factor, and that's exactly what we are going to discuss in this video. But before we could go into visibility, let us first define and understand what do we mean by visibility and then get going from there. So when I say visibility, visibility is you being known to the relevant stakeholders for what you do, for what your aspirations are, and what do you want to achieve, and what did you deliver, what were your achievements. That is what I mean by visibility. So visibility has a varying degree. In startups, you have higher visibility. The moment you go to medium enterprises, your visibility is a bit decreased because there are more hierarchies. And then the moment you go large enterprises, of course, your visibility is very limited. You need to understand that visibility does not necessarily has to do with reporting line of structure. You can control that how much visible should you be and where you do not want to be visible. I do not mean by visibility that the whole organization knows you, that, oh, you are a good person, you are an easygoing person, you can talk to them. So for example, you are talking to a security guard, this is definitely a good gesture on your behalf. It is showing that you're a good person. But a security guard, for example, or a guy at the reception or an HR guy would probably not be responsible for your promotion or career progression, right? They can vouch for you that you are a good resource, you were nice with them, but they may not be able to determine your career progression. So it is important to identify the key stakeholders to whom you should be visible. Okay, so the first thing that we have established here, that visibility is definitely good, but to the right stakeholders. And how do you identify those right stakeholders? We are going to talk about it shortly. We generally talk about the stakeholders that you should be visible to. Of course, you should be visible to your team lead. He should be knowing what you are doing. Maybe not on day-to-day basis, but in general. Then the boss of your team lead should also know, and then his boss. It is important to note that when you start your career, you are not that visible to the people. Of course, not everyone within the organization would know you. It takes time to create that visibility. But if you try to understand the level of visibility, so the level of visibility can be classified as you being visible within your team, within your department, within your organization, across departments, and then outside your organization as well. In best case scenario, you should also be visible outside your organization. The question could be that we have been talking about visibility so many times now, but you could be asking, why is it important? What does it mean? Why do we need to be actually visible? And this relates to the exact same thing that I discussed in the beginning of this video, that it is important to be visible so that you can get recognized and acknowledged. And when I say recognized and acknowledged, it is important because it has a direct impact on your career growth. If you are visible, if you are doing good work, your work is being recognized, you are delivering more than you were expected to do. For example, you did some big achievements and they are made visible to the executive management, then your chances of growth are pretty high. Of course, there is other politics that kicks in, but here we are talking about playing your part. So your part is to ensure that you are visible for what you do, you get it recognized, you tell people that you did it, and etc. And there is another reason that when we are working within the teams, as human beings, we like to share. We like to showcase what we do. So it could be at peer level as well. So for example, if you are working on a project, you could be talking within your team that, okay, we are working on that project. You could be showcasing your capabilities within your team, outside your team as well. And that is exactly what is shaping your visibility. However, if you are not doing that, people would not even know what you're working on, what are you good at, and etc. We established that visibility is important for your career growth. Another question could be, how much visibility is good? How much people should know you? How much people should know you, that what are the exact topics that you're working on? And that exactly is the next section of this video. The problem is, when we talk about visibility, so we have generally two tendencies. So when I say being visible to your team lead, of course, your team lead or your immediate manager would definitely know you what you're doing on day-to-day basis. However, your director might not know you, right? Because they actually do not care on what do you do on day-to-day basis. However, they are concerned about what you do in the long run. So it is important not to burn out yourself by trying to visible on day-to-day basis. You do not need to be visible. You do not need to show or tell anyone that you are working on these 20 tasks, these 30 tasks, etc. for the sake of being visible. Yes, if you are being overbooked, if you are being overwhelmed by the work that is given to you, definitely you should be discussing it. But telling anyone that you're doing 30 tasks per day for the sake of getting visibility and recognition definitely is an anti-pattern and not the right way to do it. Then comes another degree of visibility, which is registering your main achievements. Talking to your management frequently, talking to your team lead, talking to your management, showing them results, telling them what are the initiatives that you're looking into that are related to you, and etc. This would also help you establish the visibility. And remember one thing, what I have learned over time is that if you are good at what you do, you would automatically be visible to the management. No matter how hard someone tries to minimize your efforts or make them look small, if you have delivered value, if you have delivered results, people would know you. And that's exactly what I mean by visibility. Now, let us also talk about an anti-pattern about visibility. Sometimes people are also focusing a lot on the work and not working on their visibility. And I have also seen many stakeholders or many people who are only working on the visibility and they are not even doing any work. So they are just trying to be at the forefront to show that, we did this. However, they did not do that. We see that such people are generally also at times appreciated, but let these guys not demotivate you. If you are the one who's doing the core work, then you also need to learn how you should be visible. And many people try to be visible by engaging in everything. So for example, they are doing their work and then they are also participating in other activities. For example, organizing events, supporting management into their personal tasks, and etc. People are generally trying to play these tricks to get more visibility or to get more alignment to the management, so that people are recognized. For me, it's a big, big, big no. And I say it again, it's a big no. Please do not do that. You are not there to be visible, to be known for any support role. You are there to do a certain job and you should be focusing on that job. And trust me, if you are doing that part, you would automatically be visible. And there is another anti-pattern which is quite common, that there are people who are into 10 things, saying yes to every task so that they are recognized as, this guy is very good, he's never saying me no. Not saying no does not mean that you are good or you are a very appreciated resource. Saying no is also a positive thing. It is a hard thing to learn, but you should say no when it is not something that you are good at. Now, I'm not saying that you should not try new things. Definitely you should try new things, but those new things should be related to what your core capabilities and not something that is just at random. Okay, there could be scenarios where you are supporting the organization, someone is on vacation, your team member is on vacation, your manager is in a bad situation or the organization is in bad situation and you are supposed to look at certain additional responsibilities. That is absolutely fine. But always taking on additional tasks just for the sake of pleasing management is definitely also not a good practice. Then, as I mentioned earlier, that oversharing is another anti-pattern that people are generally, talking to people on day-to-day basis, telling that, oh, we are overwhelmed, we have so many tasks to do, and etc., etc. This would also not be beneficial. So I would say that you need to strike a balance in being visible. So there is another important factor that plays an important role, which is what kind of personality are you? There are introverts, there are extroverts, and there are omniverts. So I would say the best case scenario for you to be an omnivert. If you are an introvert, then you need to work on being an omnivert. If you are an extrovert, you need to work on being an omnivert. Because if you are oversharing in what you do, what you are good at, chances are that you will be bombarded or given more tasks that could ultimately result you being overwhelmed or a burnout. And specifically in those scenarios when you do not know how to say no. However, if you are introvert, then that's another challenge because you are not talking enough to the people, you are not talking enough at the right forum for people to know that you exist. And when you do not talk to people, you do not tell them that you exist by demonstrating that what you have done, what you have achieved, there would be a challenge that you would not get the desired results. So I wanted to discuss being visible is good, but you need to strike a balance. Do not confuse visibility with doing extra work. Do not think that visibility has to do with someone having personal grudges with you. Okay, it can have some participation, it can have some minor influence on that perspective. So if your manager does not like you, it doesn't necessarily mean that your work is not visible, right? So the best way of being visible is to be visible through your work. And of course, you also need to communicate your work. You need to tell people what you do. And when I say you need to tell people, you need to tell the relevant people and not everyone, because if you tell it to everyone, it also establishes that you are just beating around the bush because you're talking to the people who don't even understand what exactly do you do. I hope this video has been helpful. I would say stay tuned and see you in the next video.